Metroid. What an amazing series. It helped pioneer its own genre, has some of the greatest games of all time under its belt according to many, and a very patient fanbase. It's been super, it's been pinball, it's been bad, and in 2004, the series officially broke industry standards, becoming the first game in history to have 0 missions. Now personally, I love Metroid despite only getting into the series a few years ago. I remember having lots of fun on this channel talking about games like 2021's amazing Metroid Dread, and having people get mad at me because I said Metroid Prime was too slow sometimes despite also being amazing at the same time. This time we'll be taking a look at Metroid Zero Mission, the remake of Metroid's Zeroest Mission from the NES, which is meant to serve as the perfect entry point to the series. I've always found it weird how they decided to remake the Zero Mission rather than maybe the 1 mission. I've played my share of Super Metroid and such, but this is the first classic 2D game I've really completed. I know some of you guys were hoping to get to Prime 2, and that'll be soon, assuming I don't take another year-long vacation, so don't worry. During development, the team was actually struggling to find ways to stay faithful yet fresh at the same time to its source material. Sakamoto has also explained they didn't even have enough time to develop the game as they wished. Despite all of that, Zero Mission was, and still is, praised as one of the greatest remakes of all time. Shouldn't take much to beat a game that looks like this though. Wait, Ellie with the Mega Mushroom, what are you doing here? This remake wasn't good. But what is it about Zero Mission that makes it so great and fondly remembered today? How can a game be so good with 0 missions to complete? I'm sure you already know, but let's talk about it. Alright guys, let's finally jump into Metroid on the NES. Play as Vannyhood of Metroid on planet Zebeth and find out what's going on with those stinking space pirates playing with the Metroid to kill Mother Brian while suffering through the primitive control, annoying enemy placement, and copy-paste level design all over the world without a map. Yeah, there's not much reason to play this from a modern lens. It's not really fun in my opinion. I enjoy lots of NES games from this time, but the design isn't really my cup of tea. Not only is this game fittingly primitive for 1986, like not even telling you what the upgrades you pick up are, but there's also just baffling design choices like spawning at only 30 health every single time you die, meaning you gotta farm enemy spawns to get your health back and your energy tanks and your missiles. Plus you can't aim down or diagonally, and it really feels like these enemies were designed with a control scheme like Contra in mind or something. Metroid is also ambidextrous in this game because her sprite just flips when turning, so she constantly switches from shooting with her left and right hand all the time. Technically, very impressive. I can't even write like, comment, and subscribe with my left hand. It's crazy how something this lacking would evolve into something so amazing, but hey, I guess it was ahead of its time back then, combining the design philosophies of Mario's athleticism and Zelda's exploration. It's very commendable. It had potential to be amazing, which has been more than realized in lots of future games. I have immense respect for what it did, but the limited technology of the time fails to keep me entertained due to the ambition being too much for this rectangle. I think you get the point, so let's play Metroid Zero Mission here on my authentic GBA. Okay, right off the bat, we already have a problem. We have more than 0 missions. Zero Mission's intro is pretty nice. The GBA's hardware allows for very minor cutscenes and expository text to inform you of what's going on without stupid typos. Zebeth? Are you kidding me? This game stinks! This remake actually tells us that Zebeth is Metroid's home planet, but now it's been invaded by the space pirates as they want to use these aliens to go take over the world. So go save the day, then escape the base before it explodes. Then wait a minute! Metroid is very fun to control and play as. The control feels much less awkward feeling and looking. Seriously, this animation looks so dumb, but something about the jumping feels a bit loose when moving horizontally. It's not horrible at all, but every now and then it's hard to position yourself on platforms when doing the spin jump, or maybe it's just me, I don't know. Maybe she could have been slightly more floaty, but this is more of a nitpick than anything. It's overall a well-feeling move and has a good balance between a normal jump and the typical giant leap for mankind moon jump seen before in this series. She's pretty agile, which makes the control overall enjoyable. And vertical aiming with the shoulder button might be the greatest thing since Metallica's Ride the Lightning. They put the GBA to pretty good use despite not having many buttons to work with. It all feels very natural despite the plethora of upgrades to later unlock. And I think having missiles on the R button is perfect. We don't need both shoulder buttons for that when you can just hold down, and it's just much more comfortable than inputting an entire cheat code sequence just to use power bombs that don't even reveal fake blocks, so what's even the point? However, the staple upgrades in this game are really more so upgrades to your base abilities accessible to Metroid rather than additions to the moveset, if you get what I'm saying. A lot of the upgrades you collect are expansions to your beam weapon or jump ability or armor. Since this is remaking Metroid Zero on the NES, this game mostly features only the typical upgrades you expect from Metroid. The very early upgrades like the long beam and power grip feel weird to be specifically unlocked as they just make the control more pleasant really. Especially the spring ball, like what difference does it make? I either press A to jump or press B to use a bomb to jump. But I believe this drives in a sense of progression from the very beginning of the adventure, with the side effect of the player being a cripple for the first 20 minutes or so. Really, it's a pretty smart design choice, but that power grip or even the high jump doesn't even matter since those trusty morph ball bombs can get you wherever you you want to go. Oh, what's this Vertisuit thing? I didn't even realize you can execute proper timing while bomb jumping till like halfway through my first playthrough, because sometimes just spamming B works good enough in most cases. I mean, who even needs the space jump now? Come on, space jump, more like space hump. Also, did you know you can wall jump in this game? I sure as heck didn't until now. I never knew this game had a wall jump because it functions exactly like the one in Super Metroid. And if you know anything about that game, you probably won't know how to do it until you get trapped in this room where these guys teach you how to do its unusual timing. Yet not a very super wall jump of you, Super Metroid. But to be fair, this game doesn't require it at all. And frankly, I actually kind of like how hard it is here because it's just a neat little bonus you can use to get around faster and maybe cheat once or twice. Due to the removal of the moon jump, it's almost harder to pull off than in that game. In Zero Mission, we have very creative and iconic upgrades here, such as the Ice Beam, which is a great combat but also a platforming tool as well. The Screw Attack is a very fun way to weaponize even the most basic ability, the jump itself. It's very satisfying ripping and tearing through enemies that used to give you lots of trouble. Yeah, I'm looking at you! What is it called? Barasuit? However, in order to actually spin while jumping, you need to be moving left or right, which can create difficulty whenever you're given very little breathing room like this stupid-ass final boss. The Super Speed Booster from Super Metroid is brought back in this game, and it's very fun, especially when it demands use of the Shine Spark that I don't even think the game tells you about, but it's pretty fun. I didn't even learn until my second run you can Shine Spark in the Morph Ball, which is how I cleared this one puzzle that always confused me originally. I didn't really like whenever you'd have to retread areas in Norfair, for example, and the only way you can progress downward here is by charging up the Speed Booster in the neighboring room multiple times, but that doesn't take away the fun of using it very much. The amount of backtracks you'll have to do mostly come down to whether or not you're stupid like me and can't figure out where to go. The Speed Booster is definitely the most skill-oriented upgrade in Zero Mission, and it's a fan favorite in the series for good reason. You can do some real crazy techniques with this one, more about it later. And for some reason, you can also discover what the game will originally dub unknown items until the very tail end of the mission, where they're unlocked as the Space Jump, Gravity Suit, and Plasma Beam, letting you jump infinitely, traverse underwater proficiently, and shoot through walls respectively. Yes, so Mega Man boy over here can shoot lemons through walls just fine, but the most badass bounty hunter in the galaxy can't? There's really no good explanation given as to why they're not accessible, especially when they're quite easy to find. In fact, I'm pretty sure they're mandatory because you have to destroy these blocks. Sure, we'll include hidden pathways to let players beat Ridley before Kraid, but we gotta block off these items so they don't break the progression too hard now. I'm sort of mixed on unlocking the last broken abilities at the very end of the game because, while it feels very badass unlocking these new powers, they open up so many rooms to grab upgrades, and when you're near the final boss's door deep into the last area of the game, it's not that fun if you want to go back or something for more energy tanks or mission expansion, you know? Although doing that is sort of shooting yourself in the foot, since I heard the final boss gets tougher with the higher percentage of items you collected, but I'm getting ahead of myself. But besides this, the backtracking is quite harmless in Zero Mission because of how the Metroid's wonderful agility complements the progression. I only criticized it in Metroid Prime, for example, because despite the Metroid being in its so-called prime, its 3D control is still inherently slower, which means it doesn't go as well with that game's design. And Magmore Caverns is a literal straight line, which is stupid, but Metroid Prime is still amazing. Go play its fancy new Switch version, which I wish I could play so bad. There's really not even many areas to explore in this game, so the progression through the world on Zebes feels amazing. I never thought a game with 0 missions could have such a great flow to it. Plus there's also these Chozo statues, which give you a general idea of where to go throughout the game, which you think would stomp all over the non-linearity, but not really. I personally never had a problem with them because I myself sort of suck at Metroidvanias. But also, it's not like these statues tell you to ignore common sense and jump into the lava multiple times to progress. Yeah, thanks, I was totally gonna think of that. And also, it's not like the game was forcing you to download map data and such, it's just something nice for those who want it. It feels like they toned this down for the second half of the game. I barely came across these statues. Plus, you know, it's on a handheld. You don't want to pull out the Metroid game and not make any progress before the open casket funeral starts. Besides the direct waypoints, the game does a pretty good job teaching you where to go while also making you figure things out yourself, like how you use these bugs that latch on a Metroid to get rid of these things blocking your path, as well as a few instances involving points of no return, suggesting a showcase of one of your abilities or emphasizing the next mandatory event for progression. And this isn't due to faulty design or anything, but Zero Mission occasionally made me realize that I actually must be stupid or something with my inability to figure certain things out, like to lay morph ball bombs in the path of this larva to kill it, because I was genuinely clueless here somehow. Did this happen to anyone else? The progression itself relies heavily on a set order of items you can collect. The game usually throws you into areas with limited amounts of pathways that open up more and more as you progress and collect more items. Not so much on the first playthrough if you're an idiot like me, but progress feels very fast paced. This game really doesn't like to waste your time, and it always feels like you're exploring deeper in the world, discovering interesting rooms, new boss encounters, or taking taking advantage of one of your newly unlocked abilities. I love this so much, you're just always making progress, and this goes hand in hand with world design too. Level layouts can feature notable landmarks that will remain in your mind when backtracking, puzzles and gimmicks to interact with to keep things fresh and teach you how to use your abilities, in combat, which is on the simple side but has interesting enough enemy design, I suppose. There are creatures that more so serve as obstacles while exploring, as well as enemies that serve the purpose of a real combat challenge. And you always have a set goal in mind, whether that could be finding the next upgrade to solve that puzzle you couldn't beforehand, traveling deeper to find the next boss, or figure out why the heck the shine spark is so hard. Pretty early on in Brinstar, you can locate this room that's blocked off, but after you defeat Kraid, you realize this activated the first door, so you then realize the next boss will activate the other one. This gives you an incentive to work towards and look forward to. And also, traveling deeper into their respective hideouts always feels engaging. Brinstar is the first area you explore, and it's pretty simple with not too many challenges, but you'll come back here a lot to make progress throughout the adventure. Its design is also probably closest to the original game, made up of lots of vertical and horizontal shafts with platform heavy layouts, but the rooms themselves actually have geography for once. And I gotta say, I do love the sound design and all the music in this game, but this theme got pretty repetitive and grating for me. Although that could just be because of how iconic it is and also the GBA's compression, although I don't mind it for the rest of the game. I love songs like Kraid's music, the boss music, and that great title screen. Norfair is a pretty dangerous and also expansive place with lava everywhere, some of which is rather an illusion to keep you from progressing, so yeah, great, thanks. Oh yeah, and you can also explore the overworld as well as the Chozo ruins and criteria, but it feels like there's really nothing here but the power grip and this one unknown item you grab back to back. Might as well call it Crapteria. Am I right or am I right, guys? Thank you, thank you. Less than 5% of you guys are actually subscribed, so please consider that to boost my ego and motivate me to keep making this content. I get it! Kraid's Lair doesn't get too tough. It has zip lines to ride across and the acid worm, which is basically just a game of back and forth over and over again. But this place does require a keen eye, with you needing to spot drains in the ground to progress towards the boss itself. Kraid actually goes down very quickly, and most of his attacks are easy to evade. You just gotta feed him a good missile sandwich, or perhaps even a triple deluxe super missile sandwich if you're an advanced player. Ridley's Lair doesn't really offer much in its design besides navigation having more challenges, as well as the Imago mini-boss, which is another game of back and forth essentially, with you feeding it the missile sandwich into its anus. Then there's the big bad Ridley himself. You can actually go down pretty quickly just like Kraid, but he comes in swinging at full force. As soon as I start this fight, I'm drowning in the acid and taking a ton of damage, like hold on! This was starting to make me think I didn't collect nearly enough energy tanks during my very first run. Don't worry, I made sure to fix that problem on the second run. I mean, geez, I had so little health you think I was doing a challenge run or something. Some of the bosses in Zero Mission can definitely come in swinging at full force, but can go down in less than a minute if you know what you're doing. Lastly, but not really, we reach Torian, home to Mother Brian in the outbreak of the Metroids. Wait, if these are Metroids, then who have I been playing as this whole time? Am I a Metroid? Oh, her name is Samus? Are they ripping off Smash Bros? The gimmick with these guys is you gotta freeze them, then drain 5 missiles onto them. But they don't stay stunned very long at all, and they come jump scare you from the background, so they're actually pretty threatening in this game. Fortunately, there's a good room to very quickly grind health and missiles back before this poopy fight against Mother Brian. You better have a lot of missiles because you gotta drain a few dozens getting through these shields, and then the boss itself looks like this. There's projectiles being fired at you from every corner of the screen, and you have like 2 platforms the length of a pixel to dodge. But if you stand still for more than a second, Mother Brian shoots a big laser at you and knocks you right into the acid, and trying to climb back up leaves you very vulnerable, but this laser is the only time you can even attack her when she's vulnerable, and it's a bit frustrating. I'd imagine it feels much better than whatever's going on in the NES version though, like why is she not even attacking? It took me so long to eventually come up with the plan of camping up top than just dropping down to shoot her, and with that it was over in no time. That made me feel like a little bitch for thinking it was so hard before this, but it's still a bit of an annoying boss if I'm being honest. We then get to play the badass self-destruct sequence to wrap things up with the destruction of the Torian base, but wait, there's more! Now this is the real Zero Mission of Metroid Zero Mission. The space pirates shoot down Samus and you crash land on Zebus without your ship or any of your upgrades and have to sneak around a Zero Suit Samus, who doesn't actually have Zero Suit because that would be very inappropriate, and eventually get your upgrades back. This part of the game can be a bit tough since the enemies here do a heck ton of damage and they're very threatening. All you have to defend yourself is a stun gun that stuns them about as long as an actual Nerf gun would. It was a pretty fun, intense sequence to play. You'll eventually realize the trial and error structure where you gotta get as far far as you can without getting spotted, and you get better at maneuvering through the layout the more time you spend. It's definitely a fun gameplay element to shake things up and really make you hone in on your quick thinking skills. It can get seriously tense. Then eventually you stumble into this room and have this boss where I barely even know what's happening, to be honest, but after that you get your suit back and access to the unknown items, making you even more overpowered and purple. The enemies here still do a lot of damage though, once again making me question whether or not I was underpowered in the energy tank department. Despite this immense power trip, that doesn't stop the enemies from being annoying and getting cheap shots on you all the time, which drain about half an energy tank. They won't even drop a single health refill either. They knew this was stupid, so they made each save room a refill station also. And they can even shoot you through doors, which I'll give them that, at least they're being faithful. At the very least, you can almost one-shot all of these enemies, so just spam B and you'll probably win. Then there's the space pirates with black armor that are immune to missiles and the screw attack and such, and probably take at least 10 shots to kill, which is just crazy with how fast and aggressive they are. They're so frustrating, I quite literally died during the escape sequence on my first run because they're so cheap. I mean, to be fair, I was essentially doing a challenge run with how little expansions I collected, but the point still stands, I don't care. I'm sure it makes sense for the final area to raise the difficulty, but when following the conventions the rest of the game has been built off of, it feels a bit cheap. I know this is gonna sound negative, but Trazodia can sometimes be so unfun to navigate through because it almost feels like a labyrinth, and there are hardly any intuitive shortcuts in sight. I was just ready for the game to end instead of maneuvering all over this area again, but fortunately the final boss is about a few steps away at this point of the game. Oh yeah, and there's power bombs. Now, you're finally about to approach the final boss, and this is what you hear. Sounds like a sound effect straight out of Sonic Chronicles, and that is not a good thing. For some reason, Ridley just comes back in this mecha form to fight Nintendo's not at all sexualized female protagonist in one last battle. But just like Samus's image in the eyes of feminism, this final boss kind of blows in my opinion. Look at how little room you're given to dodge attacks, it's just crazy. What makes it more cumbersome is how to target the weak point, you gotta jump to reach it, and it feels super awkward. In the loose air control of Samus's jump starts to get more intrusive when you have so little room to maneuver around Ridley's attacks, even with the screw attack and space jump. And sometimes you barely have any time to even dodge before it's too late, and yeah, this is probably my least favorite part of the entire game, but hey, it's the final boss, it's supposed to be challenging, right? I just thought it could have been less, frustrating to end the game on a more fun note. But after that, we get an actual tent escape sequence, and we are finally finished with Metroid Zero Mission. 44%? What? Yep, that's right, we aren't done with this game now. Obviously, if you play a Metroid only once, you're doing it wrong. There's just something about the design of Metroidvanias that make replays inherently way more fun than the first playthrough once you know where to go and how to defeat this larva boss. To be fair, this does apply to most games, but not all of them at the same time. One thing, you unlock hard mode on your save file once you beat the game. I'd imagine most veterans who think this game is too easy don't want to play the game once to unlock a challenging difficulty though. I think having to unlock harder difficulties only really works if said difficulty is a major difference in challenge. Like in Castle Crashers, when enemy damage and health gets multiplied by 10. Yeah, insane mode isn't very fun at all, but yes, damn it, I'll take any extra chance I get to talk about this game. It's probably on sale on Steam or something, go buy it. For my second playthrough of this game, I decided to go with hard mode, and it left me feeling mixed. Enemies deal way more damage, to the point of something like the Worm and Brinstar being able to kill me, as well as health regens becoming way more scarce. I swear they seriously try, for lack of a better term, to edge you when you get especially low. But the main thing I don't like is how picking up an energy tank gives you 50% half of a normal full tank, or I'm actually 49.4949%, and how missile tanks only give you 2 instead of 5, which makes a major difference as you progress. Obviously, I had to go out of my way to collect as many energy tanks and missile upgrades as possible, but playing on hard mode just made me wish I was playing on normal, since I'll be way more jacked and the game would be way more fun, so I started to regret it. Some bosses like Ridley just kept on tearing me to shreds at least like 5 times, and even going out of my way to get as many missiles as I can, I still feel like I barely had enough to make it through any boss. And I quite literally collected every single energy tank before going to Torian, and look at how little I had. Obviously, increased damage values and such make a lot of sense, but some of these changes sort of unmotivated me to complete hard mode. Maybe one day. I'm sure to many it just sounds like I'm bad at this game, and to be fair, I never said I was good. I would have just preferred a challenge that wasn't so strictly reliant on limitation. It felt a bit lazy in my opinion, but that's just my opinion. But hey, at least on a New Game Plus save file, the map screen shows you a checklist of every collectible in the area, which is amazing for trying to catch them all, as well as a speedrun timer, which could have been there to begin with, but I appreciate how they know the community loves speedrunning and keeping track of times. But if you pull up the map in game with an item map online, you'll be set for the rest of the game. I still really enjoyed my second and eventual third playthrough of this game with the knowledge I gained from the first one. I really started to learn how much freedom the game gives you, especially with how you can break the intended sequence of progression, also known as sequence breaking. Get this, so I died once to this stupid worm boss that guards the first intended super missile tank because you have like 0 missiles in hard mode. So instead, I shot this one specific block at a nearby room and bomb jumped my way up there to literally go all around Ridley to find another one, wasting about 20 minutes of my time, but I thought it was neat. The boss really isn't bad, but I was simply just curious, and I loved how I was rewarded for that. It's so funny how you can do stupid tricks like that, and even skipping the long beam at the very beginning of Brinstar for literally no reason, like your beam shoots 3 feet without it, why would you not want it? Plus there's hidden pathways to sequence break and somehow beat Ridley before Kraid, which is crazy. And it's even possible to do a minimalist run, collecting 15% or less of all of the items that the game even acknowledges, because they reward you by giving specific endings for those runs. I didn't have the time to do this kind of run, but maybe I will one day. And some of these sequence breaks are pretty tough to nail, but extremely rewarding. Instead of getting the Variosuit after beating Kraid and unlocking the high jump, you can actually cheese your way up there as soon as you unlock the morph ball bombs without even going down your first elevator. The precision required for vertical bomb jumping probably took me a good 5 minutes, but if Metroidvanias could do it so easily, then so can I, damn it! If you want to sound smart, then you can call this technique IBJ for infinite bomb jump or iguana ball sack jamboree, depending on what kind of person you are. You can also do stuff like getting the screw attack before Ridley if you pull up this precise shine spark, and stuff like this is just so fun and interesting. I wasn't even trying to specifically speedrun, I was just curious and totally didn't look up how to do any of these, although I'm not sure how much I really benefited from this one because jumping on frozen enemies became super unwieldy, but I managed. I just love how this game can make me feel like a genius sometimes for doing stuff like this, because I rarely feel like a genius, I'm stupid. And there are a heck ton of upgrades like this to collect that require big brain shine spark puzzles and reward those with a well-trained eye, and it's so fun. Sometimes you'll hardly even have enough room to charge the speed booster, which makes it very challenging. You gotta activate your inner dinosaur mode for some of these. You waste 5 minutes just for 2 missiles, heck yeah. Once again, I just wished I wasn't on hard mode a lot of the time so I could especially reap the rewards, you know? That's why I did a third playthrough on normal mode so I could actually motivate myself to beat the game again. I just love how my appreciation for a game can grow even more with repeated playthroughs. I'm sure it would have made more sense to discuss these things earlier when analyzing the gameplay loop, but I just wanted to illustrate my personal experience and demonstrate how much I felt this game opens up. But for my third playthrough, or technically second since I didn't finish hard mode, I went for 100% item completion, and it left me feeling sorta mixed. So much of it is due to the endgame item hunt for 100% after unlocking the unknown items. The space jump and gravity suit are definitely neat, but power bombs feel so useless when they're unlocked so late into the game and have like 2 mandatory uses. But nope, you gotta find this specific secret exit in Trezodia and go collect 9 power bomb tanks throughout the whole planet. Oh wow, you get to go back to Tori, and I haven't been here in like 45 minutes. How nostalgic, so retro. And another reason the last minute unknown item unlocks are frustrating is because you could possibly spend upwards of 10 minutes trying to nail this one specific shine spark in Ridley. Just to unlock an area with a missile tank, you need the space jump to collect. That's just amazing. The other thing with going for 100% is that you need to prepare to have your skills tested. It's not even just the speed booster. Some of them test you with abilities like the space jump in actually interesting ways, despite this one making me pull my hair out. But the shine sparking seen in this game can be some of the craziest tricks you'll ever see. Now, admittedly, it does feel rewarding when you see a speed booster block in the weirdest location imaginable and wonder where it could be for forever, until you totally use your ingenuity and not look it up on YouTube. I did not expect to have to master the properties of the shine spark this hard. You need a whole master's degree in shine sparking physics and how Samus's velocity applies to the terrain and slopes, and how it also works in the morph ball because they test that on you too. You also need at least a bachelor's degree in leaps of faith, because there's all these items and criteria that require you to almost just blindly dash in random directions, whether it's straight or diagonal, and it's just a bit annoying. Besides these, most of the shine sparks are fun for the most part. They can definitely be very rewarding when you forget you're wasting 15 minutes to increase your health by 6% when you can also jump infinitely and destroy objects with a jump. I do kind of wish the hardest ones would be rewarded with super missiles more often rather than standard missiles, because come on, these are way more valuable. It seems obvious to do this. But unfortunately, the really hard ones can make you realize how sometimes it can be a bit finicky shine sparking in the direction you want to go. And fortunately, while the speed boosting itself rarely lasts more than 5 or 10 seconds, you gotta go all the way back and wind it up again every single time you try again, and that time can really add up. So I personally wouldn't feel ashamed if you want to take advantage of save states if they're accessible to you on your authentic Game Boy Advance like mine is. The SP stands for Save State Program, duh. But we just have to talk about the absolute hardest shine spark, which fittingly ended up being the last item I collected for 100% completion. This one in Trezodia is quite infamous. You not only need a degree in shine sparking, but geometry and AP calculus with how you gotta use momentum momentum on these slopes of varying angles, and you gotta do like angle side theorems to crack the code on this one and all that. It's just crazy. Let me just take you through it. Alright, let's get started. So you gotta start charging the speed booster. Alright, then you jump up here, then you gotta shine spark, carry the momentum onto that obtuse angle, another obtuse angle, another one, which, okay, they're pretty easy to do, and then you gotta charge it up onto these, so you speed boost and then shine spark again, and then drop down on this very precise angle, charge up that shine spark, then shine spark through this wall to finally get your energy tank. The craziest part is that when you unlock the speed booster, the game doesn't even tell you how to shine spark. You gotta figure all this out yourself. This genuinely took so long, I had to mute my game to focus because I'd rather listen to this than that continuous shine sparking noise. I never want to hear it again. But despite the trauma, was it worth going for 100%? Well, it depends on how lonely you are, because your reward for certain completion conditions is Samus standing still. As is, I don't really recommend going for 100% because of the aforementioned hiccups in the journey, as well as this stupid reward. If it was something like Samus riding on a fire-breathing skateboarding dinosaur with machine guns tearing Ridley into itty-bitty pieces, then I totally would, but I don't know about this. But really, I did this for personal intrinsic value. I wanted to experience everything this game had to offer that isn't a stupid 15% item run or hard mode, because I loved this game, and in the end I did it. It was pretty rewarding overall because I really felt like I mastered a lot of the mechanics on display here, and I had such a blast. Except for this one shine spark, it can go poop its pants, I don't care. I just had so much fun replaying this game and getting better at it because Metroid Zero Mission is just so amazingly fun to get better at, because Metroid Zero Mission is just so amazing and fun. It's a short and sweet game, but there's so much to it. It masterfully remakes Samus's Zeroist mission, and pretty much everything about it is just super fun to play. I love playing as Metroid. I mean, Samus and this massive planet with so many things to discover, so many ways to harness my skills to get energy expansion, and so many ways to do useless sequence breaks I didn't even need. I first experienced Zero Mission about a couple of months ago, and it is without a doubt one of the best games I have played in recent memory. It is a fantastic 2D Metroid game. This may be a hot take, but honestly, Zero Mission is definitely way less flawed than Metroid Prime in my eyes. I love Metroid Prime, don't get me wrong, but it has world design that doesn't go seamlessly hand in hand with the intended progression, Magmar Caverns, and the tedious quest right at the end. And the bosses go on for like 30 minutes in Prime as opposed to 30 seconds in this game. Zero Mission is just a blast of fun to play all throughout, and while it may be short, the amount of times I'll likely come back and replay it will most definitely not be short. I mean, yeah, going for 100% wasn't the most fun thing ever, but still, there's hardly any flaws I can point to with this game. For me, Zero Mission is an amazingly straightforward game. Not in the sense of it being super linear, far from it actually, but there's absolutely no fat or BS that needs to be trimmed from the experience. For what it is, it's almost perfect. So that answers a question we've all had from the beginning, but let's answer the real question here everyone has been wondering. Why can't Metroid crawl?